Okay, let's get into this. Today we're doing a deep dive into some really extraordinary source material. It's this incredible text detailing the lives, the motivations, and I guess the ultimate manipulation of this small, pretty desperate community. They're basically marooned on a collapsing agricultural estate.
Yeah, and our mission here, it's not just recapping the story, right? It's
Right.
more like treating this whole narrative as a kind of case study in psychological collapse. We're looking at the extreme behaviors, the desperation of these characters, almost like, observable phenomena, watching a tiny society just dissolve.
And the first thing that hits you really is the setting. It's not just a backdrop, is it? It feels like the physical form of their despair.
Exactly.
You're just plunged into this world of constant, relentless rain, walls dripping with mildew, roofs missing tiles, rust everywhere, and this thick, impassable mud. It literally cuts them off. The estate itself is decay.
Yeah, absolutely. And that environmental rot, it completely shapes the human dynamics. Inside this decaying landscape, we've got our main players. There's Futaki, he's the reflective one, the loner, getting more and more fatalistic.
Even the schemers.
Yeah, Schmidt and Crane are very practical, very self-serving. Then you have Mrs. Hallex, the religious zealot type, desperate for some meaning.
And the doctor, the observer.
The detached observer, yeah. And then the key figures, the ones who shake everything up, Irimias and Petrina, the returnees, the false prophets whose arrival is sort of whispered about as a resurrection.
So the real conflict then, it's this disruption of total stagnation. You've got this community just clinging on, obsessed with petty greed, completely exhausted. And that world gets shattered by this sudden promise of, well, salvation, which kicks off this chaotic chain reaction. It's all about money, this deep-seated guilt, and then finally just scattering into nothingness. Irimias showing up isn't really a lifeline. It's more like throwing a match on dry tinder, isn't it?
That's a perfect way to put it, yeah.
Okay, so let's start before he arrives. Section 1. The claustrophobia of collapse.
Yeah.
Life before salvation.
Right, and to really get why they fall for Irimias, you have to understand their state. Physically and mentally, the sources are incredibly detailed about this dissolution. The decay is so bad, the whole community has actually retreated from the main living areas. They've relocated entirely to the kitchen.
The kitchen, just crammed in there.
Yeah, it's the warmest, smallest, sort of most defensible space left.
That spatial shrinking is key, isn't it? They've physically pulled their world back to match their, I don't know, their dwindling hope. The main rooms are just gone. Cracked walls, spiders, mice, tables falling apart.
Total surrender. Physical, psychological. They're confined to the one place linked with, keeping body and soul together, even if that place itself is dank and smells awful.
All rot.
Exactly. And this physical giving up, it breeds this really profound fatalism. You see it best in Futaki. He's the one trying to make sense of it all, this stasis.
He has that vision, right?
He does. This incredibly powerful waking vision. He's looking at a single acacia twig, and he sees the entire cycle of all 4 seasons play out just on that one twig.
Wow.
And here's the philosophical bit. He starts seeing time itself as just a, quote, frivolous interlude in the much greater spaces of eternity.
That's heavy. Time as a brilliant conjuring trick to make chaos look orderly.
Precisely. And by seeing time as just a performance, he develops this worldview where suddenly random events start to look like necessity. He sees himself, and this is a direct quote, nailed to the cross of his own cradle and coffin, just paralyzed by this huge cosmic insight.
So he's stuck. And that paralysis, that fatalism, that's the backdrop for the immediate reason they want to escape, right? The little conspiracy.
Exactly. Schmiss and Craner, they're desperately trying to break the cycle of decay their own way by getting rich quick. They're rounding up the estate's cattle to drive them west, planning to collect 8 months of back wages for everyone.
And they just run off with a whole lot.
Yep. Pure selfish desperation. But Futaki, he gets jolted out of his stupor by these strange, recurring, ghostly bells he keeps hearing.
Off the bells.
Yeah. He realizes what Schmidt and Craner are up to. He confronts Schmidt right there in the kitchen, blocks the door. And after kind of mocking them for a bit, he gets Schmidt to confess. But he doesn't blow the whistle.
No. He wants in.
He wants his cut, demands a 3-way split. And they reluctantly agree.
But even then, even when he's potentially secured his escape route, his fatalism kicks back in.
It does. Schmidt immediately asks to borrow Futaki's share back, says he needs it to, settle down somewhere.
And Futaki just shuts him down.
Flat out refuses, snaps at him, I don't give a damn, I don't want to rot here either. But it's not really greed driving him, is it? It's more like resignation.
He knows it's pointless. The source material even mentions him noticing that dank smell in the kitchen again, feeling this sour taste of death on his tongue.
Yeah, he links it to basically having to eat the mildew off the walls of his own life, metaphorically speaking. He was almost ready to give in, but that physical feeling, that internal sense of rot, stops him. He knows the money won't fix the fundamental problem. The world itself is rotten.
And talking about internal rot, this collective anxiety, just before Irimias turns up, it's almost tangible, isn't it? Signaled by these omens and terrors.
Oh, yeah. Mrs. Schmidt talks about this horrible dream. Some terrifying, unshaven guy with eyes made of glass breaks down her door.
Glass eyes. Creepy.
And then the dream gets weirder. The kitchen floor starts moving, she says, quote, like a car.
Whoa. It's like the subconscious is just reflecting the instability of everything around them.
Totally. And Futaki immediately links her dream to those ghostly bells he heard. And when they realize they've both had these shared, scary disturbances, that's when the anxiety really spikes.
And it's Futaki who puts it into words, right?
Yeah, he grumbles something like, mark my words, something is going to happen today. It's the perfect setup, psychologically, for change.
They're primed for it.
Exactly. They're scared, they're cynical, they're broke, and they're utterly convinced things can't go on like this. They almost need a catastrophe, something huge, to justify their fatalism. Even if that catastrophe turns out to be a total lie.
Which brings us to part 2, the catalyst. The news of the resurrection.
And this disruption, it arrives with, well, apocalyptic force, that little conspiracy between Schmidt, Craner, and Futaki. It just evaporates instantly.
Oh.
Mrs. Helix, the neighbor, the religious one, she bursts into the kitchen screaming, resurrection! Apparently her entrance is so violent, the cart driver jumps up like he's been stabbed.
Wow. So what's the news?
It's huge. Irimias and Petrina, the two guys everyone thought were dead for the last 18 months.
Which was a lie, right? Spread by some kid.
Yeah, the Horgo's kids spread that rumor. Turns out they're not dead. They're walking down the road towards the estate right now. A long-distance bus driver saw them.
And the reaction?
Instant chaos. Disbelief, but mixed with this immediate, ecstatic, almost desperate hope. Schmidt, the cynic, he keeps insisting, no, they're dead.
But Futaki believes it straight away.
Instantly. The fatalist, the guy nailed to his coffin, he gets it. The Horgo's kid must have lied. And for him, Irimias is the answer. The antidote to that crushing fatalism.
He calls him a magician.
Yeah, says Irimias is a great magician. He could turn a pile of cow shit into a mansion if he wanted to. His arrival guarantees that everything would improve. It's the promise of order coming back into the chaos.
That's the key to Irimias' power then. It's not just about money, it's about meaning. A framework to escape that void Futaki saw in the acacia twig.
Exactly. Mrs. Schmidt remembers him the same way as the one who always sorted out their messes, calls him an angel of hope to hopeless people.
And this wave of hope just crushes the escape plan.
Completely. Schmidt is screaming, trying to hold on to the plan, but the money gets snatched away and stuffed into Mrs. Schmidt's bosom for safekeeping.
Safe from Schmidt, you mean?
Pretty much. And Futaki, in this quiet moment, just tells Schmidt, look, if Irimias is really here, you wouldn't be able to escape him anyway. It's over. The escape plan is dead, replaced by this, delirious vision of things getting better, the sound of machines long silent starting up again.
But that's their hope. What's Irimias' reality? This is where the cynicism really bites.
Oh, absolutely. While they're downstairs celebrating his resurrection, Irimias and Petrina are walking towards the estate, having a very different conversation. Utterly brutal detachment.
How does Irimias see them?
As servants. As slaves who have lost their master but can't live without. Things like pride and honor.
Wow.
He says they're waiting belly to the ground like cats at pig-killing time, hoping for scraps. He thinks they lived in the shadow of their masters, and when those masters left, they just fell on what was left and tore it apart.
So he's not coming as a savior at all?
Not even close. He's coming as a new master, because he thinks these slaves need one.
And why were they gone for 18 months? Was it some glorious mission?
Not according to him. It was mandated. They're only coming back to the estate now because they're broke and need a place to crash. Petrina asks why they have to stay, and Irimias is blunt. We're in the shit, friend. We have to stay with them. Their arrival is pure necessity, not some divine plan.
And this whole idea of the network comes up too, doesn't it? The source of his control.
Yes. He tells Petrina they were away fulfilling certain obligations, a mission, for the past 18 months. They were only just released to, as he puts it, take a deep breath of the air of liberty.
And he mentions reporting to someone.
The captain, who apparently warned him about whispers and rumors.
Okay, so there's a bigger structure here. Irimias isn't the top dog.
Seems not. And the description of this captain, it's deeply unsettling. After Irimias leaves his office, the captain has this kind of convulsive shudder. His face changes, becomes like armor, gray, dull, yet metallic, swallowing light. It's described as the decay resurrected from the cavity of the bones filling every cell.
That's a chilling image. Is that literal decay? Or metaphorical? Like the system he represents is already dead, but armored, preserved in this dead metallic state.
It could be read that way, absolutely. It feeds right into Irimias' own cynicism, doesn't it? He's not free either. He's just a spider in a bigger, decaying web.
Forced to spin hope for others.
Even though he knows the system he serves, represented by the captain, is essentially this preserved corpse just focused on control. It's the difference between real freedom and just, shuffling the chains around. Irimias' genius isn't salvation, it's just being good at writing the terms of the new servitude.
Okay, while all this resurrection hysteria is kicking off down below, we shift perspective. Section 3, the isolated eye, the doctor's view.
Right. Completely separate from the noise and the hope, we have the doctor. He's the scientific eye, the detached analyst, just meticulously chronicling the whole community's misery from his window with this, icy expression.
Designed to impose order on it all.
Seems like it. He keeps these notebooks very carefully labeled Futaki, Mrs. Halleck's. He records tiny details. Observes Futaki looking scared, writes down. Futaki is frightened of something. Futaki fears death.
He even notes the cat.
Yeah, a terrified black cat darts past his window, and he concludes it must have been frightened by something. It's almost comical in its precision.
But it's fascinating, too. That obsessive documentation, the act of watching and labeling, it feels like his only defense against the chaos, doesn't it? If he can name the despair, maybe he can control it somehow.
But he can't, can he? He already sees where it's heading. He mutters about Futaki. You'll all cheese it soon. You two are going to cheese it, Futaki. Don't get so worked up. He sees their frantic efforts as totally futile.
And he's fighting his own battle, too. Isolation, drinking.
Definitely. His whole existence is this cycle of profound isolation and alcohol. He even toys with this idea of radical self-liberation.
What does that involve?
Giving up everything. Food, alcohol, cigarettes, and this is crucial, the need to name things. He has this aspiration to just dissolve in the terminal silence that he feels is calling him.
Wow. Dissolving into silence. That's the ultimate intellectual escape hatch, isn't it? Transcending the messiness of the estate through pure asceticism.
It is. But the conflict resolves itself pretty quickly and brutally. Self-loathing kicks in. He decides the whole idea is ridiculous, just little more than fear, the sense of his own dignity making him think like that.
And the name.
He pours himself another glass of Palinka.
Of course.
And the reason is simple but telling. An empty glass always made him feel a little nervous. The need for the drink, the need to fill that void, it just overrides the lofty intellectual dream of purity and silence. His analytical mind can't save him from his own basic physical and emotional needs.
And the environment just keeps reinforcing that resignation. The rain.
Always the rain. He watches it turn the soil into one enormous sea of mud, predicting they'll be totally cut off until the first frost. He imagines the puddles reflecting the moon, looking like a galaxy of tiny silvery blind eyes gazing up at the sky. The decay feels cosmic, passive, completely overwhelming.
And that pushes him to his final act. Sealing himself off.
It seems connected. He has this really disturbing dream, feels like unconscious violence breaking through about beating a horse until he sees its brain. Yeah, and that seems to trigger his final decision. He notices the headmaster's door is broken, and he decides to secure his own space, his sanctuary.
How does he do it?
It's incredibly symbolic. He gets a box of nails and just starts hammering them into his own doorframe with increasing fury, the text says, to stop anyone getting in. He writes that unless the nails actually rot, nobody will disturb him until spring.
So it's not just wanting privacy. It's the ultimate failure of detachment, isn't it? The observer, who couldn't impose order on the system, just nails himself inside his own little prison, sealing himself off from the mud and the madness, hoping paperwork and isolation are enough protection.
Which, of course, they aren't.
Okay, so the doctor is sealed away. Now, Section 4. The bar, guilt, manipulation, and a terrible offering.
Right. While the doctor locks himself in, everyone else, plus their collective cash, ends up at the bar waiting for Irimias, their supposed savior. And the atmosphere is tense.
Drunk and anxious.
Very. Drunk, anxious. You hear the clatter of dishes, the hum of the oil heater. Mrs. Schmidt is pretty wasted by now, getting unwanted attention from the landlord and Hallex. But she's only dreaming about Irimias and finally getting out of this fetid swamp.
They're vulnerable, morally, physically, softened up by booze and hope.
Exactly. The perfect stage for Irimias' performance. And this vulnerability becomes the backdrop for the tragedy he's about to exploit ruthlessly, the death of little Esti.
Ah, yes. The source gives us the grim context first, doesn't it?
It does. Her own sister, Horgos the Elder, calls her the little criminal, the idiot child Esti. Just bitter resentment. It shows the baseline cruelty and lack of compassion already there in the community.
And the detail about the poison, it's horrific.
It really is. Sanyi, Esti's brother, finds her with rat poison she stole from the barn, and instead of taking it away, he mocks her, shoves the bag back into her pocket, and yells after her, "Don't use it all at once," as she runs off towards the light of the bar.
Just staggering cruelty.
Casual. And that casual cruelty, that's the moral landscape Irimias walks into. He arrives, pretends to be shocked by Esti's death, his voice tight. But he immediately takes control of the narrative. He defines the event for them. He says, the tragedy involves each and every one of us because we are all responsible for what has happened.
Boom. Collective guilt, masterstroke.
Absolute masterstroke. He completely weaponizes their shame, their drunkenness, accuses them of unforgivable, wicked thoughtlessness, says they left Esti wandering like a stray dog while they danced drunkenly through the night.
He even says she must have cried out for them.
Yeah, that at the moment she died, she must have cried out, but their tumult, their drunken noise drowned her out.
He's not just making them feel guilty, he's engineering collective guilt, making them all complicit.
Precisely. He declares Esti was the embodiment of innocence, which makes them, the whole group assembled there, the embodiment of guilt, and the only way out of that crushing shame. Submit to him. He demands a clean confession, which he promises is as good as absolution.
So Esti's death wasn't just a tragedy, according to him.
No. It was a punishment and warning. Her sacrifice serves as a pointer to a better, fairer future. He's turned this squalid, cruel incident into a redemptive myth. They're the sinners, he's the priest, and he holds the key to atonement.
Okay, so he softened them up with guilt.
Yeah.
What's the next step?
Part 2 of the speech. The illusion of the model economy. First, he justifies his absence. It was a noble mission, his being here now, pure chance. But then, seeing them strewn across the room, dribbling unconscious, that made him hear their cry for help, the cry of the unlucky, the outcasts, the indigent and defenseless masses.
Laying it on thick.
Totally. Then comes the grand plan, establishing a model economy, a small island for a few people with nothing left to lose, free of exploitation and the location. The derelict Almazy Manor nearby, he claims getting the lease is child's play.
But there's a catch. There's always a catch.
Always. The problem is money, ladies and gentlemen. Money, he says. Because without a penny, the deal is dead.
They need cash for the lease, for repairs, for investment, and guess what?
They have the cash. The cattle wages Mrs. Schmidt is guarding.
Exactly. And the villagers, desperate for this redemption story to be true, desperate to make Esti's death mean something, to wash away their guilt, they immediately offer it up, all of it.
And Irimias just takes it. Not quite. He performs hesitation. And this might be his most brilliant move. He calls their offer a moving demonstration, but then he warns them explicitly that they might lose the money, that he faces unpredictable risks.
Why do that?
It's crucial. That fake reluctance elevates their act. It's no longer a desperate handout. It's a noble, conscious sacrifice. They're choosing to invest in salvation, knowing the risks. So of course they insist. Craner even agrees to be called a well-wisher just to make it official.
He makes them double down on their own delusion.
Perfectly put. The deal is sealed. He takes the cash. And then, the final twist of the knife. He demands a small portion be set aside for Esti's funeral, because she died, quote, most certainly for us or because of us.
Wow. He's got their money, their loyalty, and he's used a child's horrific death as the cornerstone of the whole transaction.
It's masterful in a truly chilling way.
Okay, so they've given him the money. What happens next? Section 5. The aftermath. Ruin, violence, and dispersal.
Right. High on this false hope, the community doesn't even wait for Irimias like he told them to. They immediately abandon the bar and rush over to Almazy Manor, the site of their promised new life.
And the reality hits them hard.
Instantly crushing. They get there and find a ruin. Silent, empty, freezing cold. The tower looks like it could fall down. There are gaping holes instead of windows. Floorboards missing everywhere. The physical state of the manor is the exact opposite of what Irimias promised. He'd said it was still in a reasonable state.
So the hope starts to curdle pretty fast.
Yeah, as they settle down for the night, too exhausted and cold to sleep properly, the doubts creep in. Craner, who was already a bit skeptical, wonders aloud why Irimias had to stir the shit like that with all the guilt talk.
And the headmaster pipes up too.
Yeah, he's bothered by being called a sinner. Insists he did everything he could for Esti, calls the whole guilt trip a pure farce. The energy shifts again, hope drains away, replaced by suspicion and the old familiar stagnation.
And that stagnation doesn't last long, does it? It turns violent.
It explodes, dawn breaks, and Irimias is nowhere to be seen. He promised to be there before daylight. Craner finally shouts it, "We've been conned!" And the community's rage immediately turns inward. The fragile bond forged by hope just shatters.
Who takes the brunt of it?
Schmidt turns on Futaki, blames him for confirming Irimias was legit for talking him out of escaping earlier, points right at him. "It's you I have to thank for being robbed."
And it gets physical.
Brutally physical. Schmidt just kicks Futaki square in the face with all his strength. Gushing nosebleed, cracked tooth. Their despair instantly boils over into attacking each other. Self-destruction.
But then Irimias does show up, right on time, wasn't it?
Exactly. 6:43 a.m., precisely when he said he'd arrive after all. He strolls in, immaculate in his seal gray raincoat, right into the middle of the violence, and instantly seizes control again.
By being angry.
He feigns profound anger and disappointment, especially about Futaki's bloody nose. Says something like, "I won't forget, but I will overlook it this time." He basically disciplines them like naughty children, making them ashamed of their own outburst, restoring his moral high ground.
Okay, order restored,
Yeah.
Then comes the next lie, right? The final deception.
Yep. The pivot away from the failed model economy. Irimias announces the whole Almasi plan is now suspended for an indefinite period. Why? External opposition, mysterious groups who object to the location, lack of regular inspections. He blames bureaucracy, the complexities of the outside world.
Convenient. So what's the new plan?
The strategic dispersal, which is just a fancy term for abandoning them. He tells them the new plan requires them to scatter immediately. Go to distant, separate parts of the country, places like Elek, Postolek, Karastor, to evade detection.
And they buy this.
He flatters them, tells them they are the chosen few. Their unique qualities of vigilance are indispensable for the real secret objective. He turns abandonment into a top-secret mission.
Unbelievable.
And they totally buy it. They get loaded onto a truck, filled with shame about the fight, yes, but also with renewed, absolute confidence in Irimias and his grand plan. They believe they have particular importance in the scheme of things. He promises to keep in touch, maintain the network.
But not Futaki. He sees through it this time.
Futaki, dizzy, broken tooth and all, sitting in the back of that rattling truck. He has this moment of final, weary clarity. He recognizes it's all just a blind and uncertain rush into the unknown. He feels Arias has lost his old fire, that the magician is actually just as crapped as they are now, using clumsy rhetoric to hide it.
So he doesn't go with them?
He refuses Irimias' offer of accommodation at the destination. He sees the final layer of the lie. He takes a small loan from Irimias, grabs his walking stick, and just sets off to wander. Aimlessly.
And the suitcases.
Gets tired of carrying them both, throws one of his 2 heavy suitcases into a ditch. It's a final act of submission, really. Giving up his possessions, giving up any hope of a fixed destination. Just accepting a fate of wandering.
So that's the end point. The trap. They traded the stagnation they knew on the estate.
For this frantic, uncertain journey into nowhere, still trapped, just dispersed now, easier to control maybe, but still tangled in the threads of Irimias' network.
While the landlord, left behind and ruined, just screams curses after the truck. "Drop dead, you miserable, ungrateful bunch of bastards."
Yeah. But Irimias, the manipulator, he has this moment of almost philosophical clarity himself. He sees himself weaving the network, that enormous spider web.
And this ties back to the captain, right? That final conversation Irimias has with Petrina just before they reach town.
Exactly. It's the core philosophical kicker of the whole thing. Petrina's all excited, asking what happens now, thinking they're finally going to be the bosses, free.
And Irimias tells him.
He says, "Till now, other people have told you what to do. Now you will tell them." Petrina thinks, "Great, freedom." But Irimias stops him. He finishes the thought. It's exactly the same thing, word for word.
Wow. So becoming the master doesn't free you. The person giving the orders is just as much a slave to the system as the one taking them.
That seems to be the devastating conclusion. It's the same cyclical logic, the same metallic decay that armored the captain. Servitude is inescapable, whether you're holding the leash or wearing the collar.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty heavy final thought, doesn't it? Given how deep their desperation ran.
Yeah. If this community's need for salvation was so overwhelming that it drove them to destroy their own property, attack each other, give away everything they had, and abandon their homes for complete illusion.
Then what's the real cost of hope when it's built entirely on lies? And maybe more fundamentally, is that kind of servitude, that need for a master, even a false one, a condition any community can ever truly be free from?